Welcome back to Taste for Adventure, Aaron. We've got kind of a sour episode going, don't we?
Yes, I thought today we could talk
Yeah.
about giving an overview of sour beer styles.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Sour beers, it's my understanding that it's kind of a large topic just in general. So I think this is kind of be the precursor, sort of the intro to sour episode.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought in this episode we could talk about just sour beers in general, and then talk about kind of not a real deep dive, but breaking down all of the sour beer categories in the BJCP. And then in future episodes, we can do a lot more technical deep dive into how to brew sour beers, all the different methods
Yeah.
that sour beers are created.
That sounds great to me. We got a lot of stuff to cover. What do we have? What do we have for our hands? What do we have to drink?
Yeah, so
For this one.
we have a flight of 4 beers today.
Okay.
We have the Game of Thrones stuff around. So actually, Ommegang has a series of Game of Thrones beers, and one of them is a golden sour ale.
Okay.
It's called Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. So we have that. We have a 3 Floyds Canis Invertus with cherry.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and so 3 Floyds is really known for Dark Lord, and they're really hoppy beers, but they also they crank out some pretty nice sours as well.
Definitely.
Boulevard's Berry Noir,
All right.
which is a berry sour.
Sounds good.
And then I have a homebrew that I brewed a long time ago.
Yeah.
And one nice thing about a lot of sour beers is that you can age them, and they sometimes can really develop and age and mature in the bottle. So this is a homebrew that I brewed way back in 2014.
That's wild.
Yeah. So pretty nice little lineup. We're probably not going to talk a ton about breaking down the beers,
Sure.
but definitely offer our comments on those while we talk all about the sour beer styles of the BJCP.
Very cool. Well, let's get some drinks going, and we'll kind of dive right in.
Sounds good. All right, nice pour there.
Yeah. Start off with Berry Noir. This is look at that color. That is a dark red. It's like a ruby or garnet
Yeah,
kind of
that's a cool thing with a lot of
crystal
sour
clear.
beers and a lot of fruit beers is that they can take on really vibrant colors
Oh,
that
yeah.
you wouldn't normally see. No malt is going to make this shade of red.
Definitely not.
So actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the malt balance in sour beers.
Okay.
So normally the balance is between sweetness and like bitterness, right?
Sure.
The hops and the malt and the hop flavor. You might have that to a smaller extent in some styles of sour beers, but really what provides the balance with the malts most often is the acidity.
Okay. Yeah.
So the malt is not going to be really counterbalanced by that bitterness. It'll be more counterbalanced by the tartness.
Okay.
So a lot of beers will have that sort of sweet tart effect.
Got it.
And you throw a lot of hops and bitterness into the mix, and then that can kind of throw it off and just kind of make it kind of clash.
Yeah.
So actually, a lot of sour beers, actually for other reasons as well, won't have a lot of hoppiness to them.
Yeah.
And certainly not a lot of hop bitterness.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. It's good. This has definitely got like a fruity berry kind of nose to it.
It smells like a blackberry pie, or like a
Yeah.
mixed berry pie or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Sour ale with mixed berries. So.
Yeah.
Very good. That is very. It is tart, but it's not overtakingly. It's not like I don't feel like I've just had a warhead or a sweet tart or something.
Right. Well, there's a lot of sweetness there that balances that tartness. So it's that balancing act.
Without getting too deep into how to brew a sour beer, what kind of gives it that, or tartness rather?
So there's a lot of ways that
Loaded question,
it can
I
do
know.
that, but really for sour beers, it's generally a bacteria or a particular strain of yeast that will really create a lot of acidity.
Okay.
So the 3 sort of strains of cultures that are most common in sour beers are Pediococcus, Lactobacillus, and there are several classes of lactobacillus.
Familiar with lactobacillus.
Yeah, and then those are going to give you a little bit more of like the clean, like lactic acid,
Okay.
you know, more like tart or sour. And then there's Brettanomyces, commonly known as Brett, and that's going to be more of like your funky, farmhousey, you know, wild sours,
Okay.
where it's not just like this crisp, clean, like sweet tart sort of character, where it'll
Yeah.
be a lot more of like, you know, that barnyard funky,
Yeah.
you know, character. And really cool thing about sours is you can blend all these together
Can you?
to get different types of characters, and you can even blend, you know, like lactobacillus with a standard clean yeast
Okay.
to help the fermentation, but then give it a little bit of that sourness. as well.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Definitely a nice one. I think a lot of people kind of sleep on sours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you know, sour, like, I always attribute sour to, like, either sauerkraut or, like, sour candy.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're not a child and you don't like, you know, sauerkraut, and a lot of people don't like sauerkraut,
yeah.
you know, I could see why, you know, it's not a flavor that people necessarily gravitate to.
Sure, absolutely.
I think, like, in the summer, a sour beer can provide a nice crispness, and they tend to be lighter, you know, so think of like a light, like summery beer, but then with a little bit of a crispness and balance instead of like a hoppiness.
Yeah.
So I think that's really nice. There's a lot of, you know, fruit and really cool expressions that people can do with sours too. I mean, they're definitely out there. The sour lovers are out there.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I became a convert. I think the first sour I ever got was Monk's Cafe. They, I'd seen it. There's a craft beer bar near us called Beer Geeks, and this was years ago when I first started going there, and they did not have quite the menu they have now. Must be craft beer, but on the back page where they had like the cans, they had Monk's Cafe, and I'm like, what even is this? Like, I'm used to getting beer on tap here.
Yeah.
So they would like finally ordered it, and they gave it to me like like little Monk's Cafe glass.
Yeah.
A little can, regular can of Monk's Cafe, and I was like, this is like a world that I've never explored before. This is like a whole new thing. Do you know off the top of your hand or top of your head what Monk's Cafe kind of lands in terms of?
It's a darker beer, and
Yeah,
it's
I
from
think it's-
Belgium.
yeah.
So I want to say it's probably a Flanders Red.
Flanders Red.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. There's kind of segue into that. There's a lot. Like, I'm looking over here at your notes here, and there's a big list. Kind of where do we get started with the BJCP style guidelines?
Yeah. So there are two like full like kind of sour beer categories,
Okay.
and then one more beer that doesn't really fit into a sour beer category, but it is a sour beer.
Okay.
So I'll start with that one just because it's an outlier. So 27A, that's the historical style category,
Aha.
is the Goza or Goze.
Had a few of those.
Yep, and that's a lightly tart beer with salt.
Lightly salted, lightly tart beer. Okay.
Yeah, so really
Sounds great.
refreshing. It's not really too intense, and it shouldn't really be like salt water, but just that little bit of like salt.
You can
kind
definitely
of,
taste the salt.
yeah, but just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a Goza. And then category 23 is European sour ales.
European sour.
Yep, and there are several subcategories. There's 6 subcategories in European sour ales.
All right.
So I'll go down the list real quick. 23A is a Berliner Weiss, which is a German sour wheat beer. 23B is the Flanders Red, and that is a Belgian sour red ale, and it's has red wine-like fruitiness and complexity to it. 23C is Ode Bruin, which is a Belgian sour brown ale, it's similar to the Flanders Red, but it's going to have more of that malty depth and richness because it's darker. It's going to have those richer malts in it. 23D is a Lambic, and that is a Belgian sour wheat beer. And traditionally, it was spontaneously fermented with wild yeast So it can have a little bit of funk too. It's not just going to be this crisp, clean lactic sourness.
Okay.
And then 23E is a Gueuze, which is a blend of different years of lambics. So it's going to be very similar to a lambic, but it's going to have a lot more complexity. It's going to be more highly carbonated, and just be like a richer, more deep lambic. And then finally, 23F is a fruit lambic, which is a sour Belgian fruit beer. And some subcategories of that are a Kriek, which is a cherry fruit lambic, and a Framboise, which is a raspberry fruit lambic.
Aha.
Yeah. Lindemans is pretty common, imported Belgian Kriek and Framboise.
Yeah.
So those are the European BJCP sour ale styles.
Okay.
And then over in category 28, that is the American Wild Ale category, and there are 3 in that. So we have 28A, which is a Brett beer, and those are going to be the funky barnyard hay, and they don't have to be sour. They shouldn't be intensely sour, but it's going to be funky with a little bit of tartness to it. 28B is a mixed fermentation sour. And those are basically a sour version of any kind of base beer. So there's a ton of ways you can play with that. Those are typically not going to have fruit and either no up to maybe moderate wood character. So those can be barrel aged, but they shouldn't be extremely barrel forward or extremely fruit forward, unless the base beer happened to be prominent with those flavors.
Okay.
And then finally, 28C is the wild specialty category, and that's really the catch-all sour. It can have fruit, herbs, spices, vegetables. It can have like heavy wood or a mix of all of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of your commercial American sour beers are going to fall into that wild specialty category. So this Boulevard that we're having right now, that's definitely a wild specialty American ale, because it's sour. Obviously, it's domestic, but it also has this heavy berry character.
It's just fruited, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where they just throw all the delinquent beers they don't know what to do with.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
The detention of sour beers.
Yeah. So really a ton of categories for sour beers.
Yeah.
They're very closely related. So I can see why people just kind of lump sour beer into kind of a general category. Yeah. But it's really kind of interesting as a beer judge to pick out the nuances in between these different distinct styles. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're doing multiple episodes because it's just an info dump. My head is swimming, and it's not just the beer. This is really good though. I like this one. I like this a lot. I love a sour beer.
I really like this one a lot too.
Great color, great clarity.
Yeah, I haven't had this one
No?
before, and I really like it. What I like about this is that it is sour, but it has that sweetness to balance it.
Absolutely.
So it's not just one note like stomach burning acidity, Yeah, really nicely done from Boulevard here.
Yeah, Boulevard, they do good work. Nice job, Boulevard.
Yeah. So now that we have empty glasses, I thought we could do the 3 Floyds Canis Invertus next.
Yeah.
And that would be, as far as I could tell, it is 3 Floyds' version of a fruit lambic and a Kriek beer. So this is a cherry lambic.
Cherry lambic. All right, let's check out what 3 Floyds has to offer. Just 3 Floyds doing a sour. I'm interested to kind of see. I'm so used to Dark Lord or some of their other hoppier beers that interested kind of to see how they approach a sour. So typically not a hoppy style at all.
Right. Yeah. So, as I'm taking a sniff of this, I'm getting a huge amount of like barrel character. It's like a red wine barrel.
Okay.
Do you get that at all?
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of red winey.
Yeah. Kind of oaky red wine. Not getting really any hops.
No.
And
but that's correct.
That's right. So hops, before they became a flavoring in beer, they were used as a preservative in beer, right? So it would prevent infection, right? So when you use the bacteria to infect beer, the hops actually help to preserve that and fight off the bacteria.
Yeah, okay.
So, the strains like Lactobacillus are extremely hop intolerant.
Yeah.
Anything over about 5 IBUs only can
Really?
kill Lactobacillus. Yeah. So, like Goose is famous for using very, very aged hops.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the alpha acids have really faded out and kind of gone down.
Okay.
And then there's also, a school of thought that don't add any hops in until after the bacteria has done its thing. Add the hops in later.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to kill it.
Right. So there's a science reason why they're not very hoppy beers traditionally.
Yeah, a historical reason, a science reason. I mean, that's why they put hops in beer to prevent beers from being, soured.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of going back the other way. It's like, no, take the hops out so we can make it sour. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. This is really nice. This one is more on the sour side. You get a lot more of that pucker. It actually makes me salivate a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So, but really excellently tasting beer.
It's funny. It says on the label like a slightly tart.
Right. Yeah.
But it's compared to the Boulevard, this is
yeah.
I've had more like aggressively sour beers.
Yeah.
This is definitely not in the tart range. I would put this
No.
right in sour.
I don't feel like Three Floyds does anything like subtly.
Yeah.
Or what was the exact phrasing?
It says a slightly tart.
Yeah, I don't feel
Flemish
like they do
style.
anything slight.
Yeah.
So.
And I know they make a regular one. And then this is their cherry one.
Okay.
So that makes me really think that their regular one would probably be in the category of like a lambic. And then, because they added the cherry, that puts it in the category of a fruit lambic.
Fruit lambic. That makes sense.
And I only really would put it there and not the American specialty because it specifically says a Flanders style red ale.
Right.
So definitely point if they're calling the style in Belgium out, makes me look at the Belgian style sours first.
Definitely so.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, this is nice. Rich and oaky, especially in the nose, and then it goes into like very sour and definitely get the cherry in there.
Yeah, definitely get the cherry in there. Little. I mean, it's even got like a more of a cherry color.
It does.
It's got like this dark red brown.
Yeah.
Or but it's intensely clear.
It is, yeah. I mean, it casts a great, like, sort of amber light on the table here when you set it down. It's a really pretty beer.
Yeah. My memories of sours include going to the specialty liquor store, the craft beer store, and seeing those big bottles with like the foil around them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember who that is. Just always like one day.
Yeah.
One day I'll get you, but usually passing up on it. Usually going for something else. Where does it's Founders? It's Rubaeus, right? Does that fall into the sour category? Is that
Rubaeus is a fruit beer.
Fruit beer, okay.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the we talk about a lot of the sours have fruit character in them.
Yeah.
So if you're entering a homebrew competition and you made a fruit beer, but it is more on the tangy side.
Yeah.
You can enter the same beer in kind of both categories, but typically you're going to want to, if it's a sort of a clean or not very acidic fruit beer, then it should go in a fruit beer category. But if it is more in the tart or sour side with fruit, it would go in the American wild specialty.
Okay, gotcha. All right, that makes sense then.
Yeah, so Rubaeus, it has a tiny bit of tartness, but it's not from the bacteria. That's all of the raspberries providing that tartness, not like the culture that ferments it. Gotcha. So that's kind of that fine line difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you're getting into granted, there are so many subcategories of sour beers.
Sure.
So you're kind of getting into specifics. So, all right, that makes sense to me then.
Great.
Very nice. This is excellent.
Yeah, I really like this.
I like this a lot.
I'm gonna have to take the Tums tonight because I feel the acidity building up in this one more than in the Boulevard. But this is really tasty.
Definitely so.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine drinking like a 6-pack by myself, but
God, no,
I
not
mean,
one night especially.
no. Well, plus, I mean, it's such a strong flavor. You know, you might want to break that up with something.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what is that something? What's the next? What's the next one up?
What's the next thing? Why don't we open my astronomy?
Yeah. Okay.
Which is another that's another fruited sour. So maybe we can do the trifecta of fruited ones, and then go to the more neutral
that's yours.
Game of Thrones. That's mine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. All the way from 2014.
Yeah.
All right. So this is your astronomy.
Yes. Astronomy. This I made this beer back when I was doing extract batches.
Wow.
This is an
really?
all grain beer. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Not too shabby. Looks great. Looks pretty similar to the other one in terms of clarity and color.
Yeah, it's super crystal clear. There's like no head on it, but
Yeah.
it's been in this bottle for God,
Yeah.
was it 6-7 years?
So,
something like
well,
that?
yeah. I mean, I think if I read the bottle correctly, 1130 is when this was bottled. So that's right.
11/30, 2014.
1130, 2014.
Is
So
that-
we're
yeah,
we're right there. I mean, we're coming right up on the anniversary.
Yeah, so yeah, I brewed
Very
this
nice,
beer
very
quite a
nice.
long time ago. So
Nice.
hopefully it develops a little bit. So this beer was a kind of just a golden generic sour ale base.
Okay.
And I added starfruit to it.
Starfruit.
And I added starfruit because starfruit is naturally kind of a tangy, sour fruit.
I've never really had starfruit, but I'll believe you.
That's what everybody tells me.
Yeah.
And I had tried starfruit before, and I thought it would really go well
Okay.
in a beer that was supposed to be sour
Already
anyway.
kinda sour, yeah.
Because it's not like, it's not like a sour, I don't know, like a sour pear beer. Pears aren't normally sour.
No. Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, just kind of something that's already there.
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't know, let's give this guy a
Not
shot.
too far a drive. It might be more helpful if I knew what starfruit tasted like, because this is very different from the other one, from the one we just had.
Yeah.
But still good. Still good. Just kind of very different taste
Yeah.
to it.
You know what stands out to me is the dryness of this beer.
It is very dry.
And, one thing I mentioned is that, sour beers can really mature in the bottle. And what I mean by that is a lot of sour beers, this one included,
Yeah.
can have live yeast in the bottle.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, so there's some beers that, like, when you pour to the bottom, might get a little, like, sedimenty. This one's one like that. So, and when you do that, the yeast will very slowly chew away at whatever those residual
Whoa.
sugars are. So it will continue to mature that beer. And
Okay.
yeah, this beer has gotten very dry over the years.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I would have loved to have. I probably did try this years ago, but yeah, very very different from the last one.
Yeah, I do get some notes of oxidation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a little bit of like paperiness to it.
Yeah, not cardboard or anything like that.
Not as heavy as
really
cardboard,
getting
but it's kind of starting in that. I might need to finish off the rest of my stockpile on this one soon.
Maybe a good call.
Yeah,
Have you brewed any other sours since?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a Solera that's
Right.
ongoing.
Yeah.
So the Solera that I have is a 15-gallon bourbon barrel, and every year, so it's filled with just a golden sour base,
Yeah.
and every year I pull 5 gallons of that beer out, and then I put 5 gallons back in. So the whole batch is
Just
constantly
a
evolving.
rotating. Yeah.
Yeah, and then every
Rotating
time I
batch.
pull it out, I will kind of play around with it, balance it out before I package it.
All right.
So we're gonna get a lot more into depth on my Solera in a future sour episode.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. So that's pretty much all the sours I do nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that kind of annual. I do that Solera.
Yeah.
I do enjoy sampling sours though.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely it's an interesting style. I'm glad that they kind of are more commercially available now.
Yeah.
Kind of people checking them out more as time goes on.
Early on, the starfruit definitely stood out more, and now I'm getting it's dry, it's tart but not really sour.
Right.
I'm getting almost like an oaky characteristic to it,
Character.
but not as much as like the Floyds. What?
Very good job on this.
Thank you. It's always fun to revisit very old homebrews,
Right.
especially since had to have been one of my last extract beers. I've been doing for quite a while.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can barely remember when you were doing extract beers.
Yeah. You helped me with a few of those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Just stovetop in the kitchen.
Stovetop
The old
beers,
house. Yeah.
Well, we all got to start somewhere, right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that is 3. I think we are kind of ready for the hashtag not sponsored portion of the evening with the Ommegang Game of Thrones beer, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yes. Yeah. Let's grab that and talk a little bit about Ommegang and their Game of Thrones series as well as that beer.
Absolutely. Seven Kingdoms.
Yes.
That is another pretty starkly different. That's more of a golden color there.
Yeah, well, this one, remember, is not tainted with any kind of berries or anything. This is the only true sort of sour that we have without any fruit or anything.
Right, right.
Now, they call this a Belgian Golden Ale Blend.
Okay.
Belgian Sour Golden Ale Blend.
Okay.
So,
Good enough.
yeah, so that makes me think that maybe it's categorized as a gueuze.
Okay.
Which a gueuze is a blend of different lambics, which are just the Belgian sour wheat beers.
Right, right. Okay.
Yeah. So they said that it's a blend of what does it say here? A blend of sour ale and Belgian style blonde ale. So that kind of put me, for me, that puts it kind of in the gueuze category. We'll see.
Sure.
See how it is. See how sour it even is.
I will say one thing: when you open up these sours, it immediately kind of punches you in the nose.
Yeah.
You always know when somebody's opening a sour in the vicinity.
They just smell so different, don't they?
They do all smell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all smell completely different.
This one actually, I'm getting a ton of maltiness in it.
Yeah. Well, that's probably from the golden ale.
Yeah, it's like bread, a little bit of biscuit, some cracker. But even though they're not heavy malt flavors, it's really intense in the lighter malt aromas.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I like it. I'm trying to pinpoint the flavors.
It has a phenolic characterful spice to it.
Yeah.
So the spiciness that a saison yeast provides, like a saison.
Okay.
It has that sort of dry, spicy quality. That's very interesting, but it's not as intense as something like a saison.
No, not quite. It's definitely an interesting one. They're all all 4 of these were just wildly different flavors as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. A little bit of honey. Belgian malts can be kind of, some really very interesting. There's a Belgian malt called aromatic malt, and it's like a low kind of sort of caramel malt but it's really unique and provides a ton of aroma and flavor.
Yep.
Similar to an English biscuit malt. It's region specific, but it provides a character that's very specific to that region. And I think this has some of that Belgian aromatic malt quality to it.
Yeah.
That's that malt complexity without it being a very dark or heavy caramel maltiness.
Because it's not that at all. This is pretty solidly in you'd call this golden.
Oh
right?
yeah, it's definitely just beautiful gold.
Mm-hmm. Head retention is it still have a halo of head right here.
Yeah, and this beer's a few years old by now. Game of Thrones ended 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Copyright 2018. So
3 years.
This is 3 years old.
Give you a big bottle, kind of like something you'd expect to see in Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Yeah, I have just a couple more Game of Thrones bottles left.
Yeah.
I was stockpiling them for a long time.
Yeah. Well, we had that big finale party.
Had that big finale party, and every time there was a new Game of Thrones beer, I would buy a few, and then I always tried to drink them while I watched the premiere of each show.
Yeah.
Julie and I would have this sort of ritual where we'd put the kid to bed, we'd sit down, we'd maybe have a little charcuterie or a snack or something while we're watching Game of Thrones, and then generally open whatever Game of Thrones beer we had.
Yeah.
But I always save extra because I always said, hey, at the series finale, I'm going to open all these Game of Thrones beers, and I sure did.
You sure did.
Yeah.
That was a good party.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That was a long time coming, too.
Yeah.
How many Game of Thrones beers did Ommegang end up doing?
I want to say 13 or 14.
Yeah, it was something like that.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah. They did a whole lot. So I still have a King in the North left, which is like the Jon Snow beer.
Okay.
And it's like just an imperial stout.
Yeah.
And I liked that beer, but I remember when I tasted it a couple of years ago, it still had those like rough edges that would mellow with age. So at some point, when I do a rewatch of the series, I'm sure I will open that beer.
Okay, so you still have one.
I still have one of those. I purposely didn't drink that one yet because I knew it would get better with age.
Yeah.
So it's just been hanging out for a few years.
Interesting. I know that I've got a few Game of Thrones beers kicking around.
Yeah.
But I did not store them quite as well as you did, so I'm interested to see how how those would go. I mean, you had, your whole under the stairs, your crawl space to go. I was still living in my parents' house.
Oh yeah.
And so they were just kind of sitting on like my shelf. So luckily, I mean, they mostly weren't in direct sunlight at all.
Yeah.
So
we have good cellar space now.
Yeah, I have great cellar space now.
Yeah.
All of my Dark Lords are aging down there.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beer, I'm glad I could revisit it.
I like it a lot.
I like that it has a tiny bit of that like. It's not quite funky, but it has that like expressive phenolic yeast character.
Definitely, yeah.
It's not. This is the least sour of the 4 beers that we've had.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure that's not even just the aging.
No, I mean it's barely tart.
Mm-hmm. But not necessarily bad.
No. I'm saying like I like that aspect of it. It's very dry, but it's dry without like the oakiness, the tannic astringent oakiness of some of the other beers. I mean, it's a clean, well attenuated dryness.
Right.
There's not really any residual sugars in this beer, which really lets the malt flavor but not sweetness stand out.
Yeah.
And the expressive yeast really stand out very well. Yeah.
Have you done a lot of sour scoring in your time judging?
I've done some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet that'd be a great little flight to taste through.
It's great. It can be really a challenge, because it's really not apples to apples. You could have a banana sour beer and then have to judge that next to a raspberry sour beer, next to like a sour coffee beer, and decide which one is best and which one most represents what a good sour beer should be.
That's wild.
It's kind of all over the place usually in the sour categories, which can be a real challenge, but it's also really fun.
I'll bet. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't even know how you order a flight like that. How you have like that flight order going.
Actually, that's really interesting point you bring up, kind of about beer judging. So the competition might arrange them in, they might arrange them in a certain way, but they might also just kind of throw them like whatever as they were entered. But then the judges have the ability to kind of reorder the way they want them.
Ooh, interesting.
So typically you want to go from low alcohol to high alcohol, or from like less intensity of flavor to high intensity of flavor.
Aha! So we almost did this backwards.
Actually, in a way we kind of did.
Yeah,
but you never know,
right, until
you've tried them. But
sure.
If there's a habanero, if there's a habanero sour beer, that's going to be at the end of the flight.
Definitely,
because you don't want to destroy your taste buds before you have the delicate cherry Ode Brune in the flight, right?
Absolutely. Interesting. Well, I don't really feel like we ruined our palates. I mean, we tasted some pretty intense beers early on.
Yeah.
But not necessarily a bad thing.
No. Well, I hope this was a good overview of all of the BJCP sour beer styles.
Yeah.
And look forward for upcoming episodes, probably in spring of 2022.
Yeah,
we'll be hitting more on how you can create sours at home and how the breweries do it. So looking forward to continuing the sour beer conversation.
Absolutely. Sounds like a good plan to me.